I would say in March 2024, when we were planning to attend the children's graduation, we didn't have this perspective.
No, no.
When we arrived in the UK, and then we went out to Surrey to Egham to see, I wanted to just check in and say hi to Professor Harindranath at Royal Holloway. And he suggested that I reach out to the University of London's marketing department, student affairs department. And he said, hey, you should let them know that all 5 members of your family have 7 degrees from the University of London, 5 undergrads and 2 masters. I just didn't see the big thing about it.
The reason why I started Long Story Short is so that we all can see ourselves in other people's stories, and to know that what Susie and Tommy are doing, I can do it too.
Right.
I believe that your story of resilience coming from Jamaica, Canada, and building a wonderful, beautiful family that you have, and the success of 7 degrees. And I was like, oh my goodness, the world needs to find out and hear about your amazing story. So through when you came to London in April and you shared the story with me, I was amazed, I was inspired, and I felt really proud because you guys are my family. So I felt proud that my family are doing amazing things in the world. So who is Cleveland Stanberry?
Well, thanks for asking. My name is Cleveland Stanberry. I hail from Thompsontown, Clarendon, Jamaica. That's where I was born. And I went to high school in what was then called the Frankfield High School. Now it is the Edwin Allen High School. And I did my O-levels at that high school. I went to Kingston at Excelsior Community College, and I did my A-levels, my Cambridge A-levels. And then after that, I applied to go to university to study computer science at the University of the West Indies, Mona, Jamaica. Was accepted, but never attended because I was too poor, couldn't afford to. So I went to work at the bank as a teller. And then fast forward to now, I'm sitting with you with this lovely lady.
Awesome.
My name is Yvonne Stanberry, and I was born in Jamaica, raised in Clarendon, Mitchelltown. I attended high school in Maypen, Clarendon, and after high school, I migrated to Canada, where I continued on in high school. After high school here in Canada, I attended a community college where I studied business administration. During my studies there, I met Cleveland Stanberry. And then we later on get married. I went to work, and our story continues.
Awesome. And the watchers and the listeners are all going to hear about your inspiring story, because you are the alumni of University of London, a prestigious university here in the UK. And I really want to explore and share with the listeners, firstly, how you guys met. Then we want to talk about how you guys managed your family business and studying at the same time, and also what were the key things that led to your family success. Because remember, this is just the first episode in this family affair, because we've got so much to unpack. So the question that I really want to ask, because the reason why I was so inspired by your story, because firstly, yourselves together, do you know what I mean? I really want to find out how you guys met.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so I met Cleveland through his cousin, and I met his cousin through my friend. So we chit-chatted on the phone. He invited me to his church. We attended church youth group and all of that. And one night I was talking to his cousin on the phone, and his cousin said, "Oh, a cousin of mine is here. Would you like to say hi?" And I said, "Sure." Cleveland came on and we started chatting. First thing he asked, Me is about school. Am I in school? Yes. What are you studying? And I told him, and the conversation went on and on about school. Next time we talk again, school again. So we chatted for like a month on the phone before I met him to see what he actually looks like. He can continue with the story after.
So I knew what she looked like before I spoke with her. And yes, I was more interested in her. Well, I wasn't interested in her per se, but I was interested in hearing what was happening with her from an intellectual perspective. It's just who I am. I'm more interested in people's intellect than their physical features. So we had a conversation. She said she was studying business administration at school and so forth. And then eventually when we met, I had some time and I used to go to the library with her as she's doing research on unionization and how it functions and interviewing techniques in her HR courses. And because I was in Jamaica, I left the bank and I was now selling life insurance. I had learned sales interviewing techniques in order to close a sale. So I shared some of those thoughts with her, but also I said, hey, I think I can find some books at the library that might have the academic theory about why you should establish commonality and what are some of the closing questions. So we went to the library in downtown Toronto. I couldn't count umpteen times. So that was how the relationship blossomed.
Yes.
It blossomed from an academic perspective,
That's
really.
right. Yes.
It started with academic interest.
The academia first. So was it love at first sight?
I would say for me, it was love at first sight. I was just looking at the picture last night, the first picture of her I ever saw. And I left my phone over there. I could grab it in a moment. I could show you what she looks like. But I was attracted to her, yes, at first sight. And I don't think she was necessarily attracted to me at first sight, but that was okay. And that is still okay. Because I think because of her, I'm growing better.
Oh, that's so lovely. That's so lovely. So what do you say, Yvonne? You know, was it love at first sight for you?
I would say yes.
Beautiful.
Well, yes and no. I was attracted to his intellectual mind, basically, because that's all I knew for 1 month before I know what he looks like. And I think the attraction started over the phone, just by talking to him. I can actually have good conversation with him. So I was attracted to that. So when I met him, the attraction just continues.
Awesome.
Right.
And you know what I love about this is that, in terms of having a long and healthy relationship and marriage, the first thing that I suppose is important is not based on outside appearance, but what is internal in terms of like your characteristics and your qualities, and also the vision that you have for yourself, isn't it? So I suppose when Cleveland, you was talking about academia, because you want a partner, a wife who has the same vision as you and who wants to do well in life.
I think so.
Yes.
I would agree with that. Totally.
Excellent. So when we're talking about what you both were attracted to each other, what would you say are the best parts of each other?
From a physical or intellectual perspective.
The best parts, the best parts. You're talking about the mind, you're talking about whether they're, outgoing, whether they're, purposeful, whether they're attentive. What are the best parts of each other?
I should say, for me, I would say that she was the first person, whether meeting on a social basis, an interest basis from my perspective, that was interested in having a conversation about her academic pursuit. One of the things she said to me was, the height that great men reached and kept was not met by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, were toiling through the night. And she said to me, have you ever heard that? And being the clown I am, I said, that's interesting. Perhaps. Meanwhile, I was very impressed that she said that, because I was one of those night owls when I did my O levels and my A levels who went to bed very early, like at 7 or 8, and I woke up at 4 a.m. and I studied all the way back to for 3 hours, all the way to 7 a.m. nonstop. So that was a mantra that I was living by, but that was something very uncommon in the late 80s, early 90s. Young people then don't think those things. So that I was very, very, very much attracted to that when she said that, but I didn't tell her.
You didn't tell her. But you know now, right? Or you knew that.
Yes, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So the attraction for him is intellectual mind. It amazes me that here I am studying business administration. That's not his background. And I could relate with him. I could share things with him and he gets it, he understands it, and he could expand on it and even help me to understand my own work that I'm doing. Doing accounting, he's never done accounting before. I have an accounting project to do. We worked on it together. So it is, I would say his intellectual mind was what attracted me, because I talk with a lot of other guys, but I couldn't connect with them intellectually. It was just on the surface conversation, but conversation with him was deep. It was intellectual.
It was deep and it was meaningful and purposeful, isn't it? And I think
That's right.
I'm like looking from the outside into your relationship, it's definitely something that has kept you together. Because how long have you guys been together now, married? Well, known each other and married?
Goodness. Well, I don't know numbers.
You don't know. 33 years since we met, 31 years married.
31 years, oh my God. Yeah. That is so cool. It makes sense to me, though. It makes sense to me because when we spent that time, April, in London of this year, just the banter and the connection and the energy between you was just I admired it. I really, really admired it. And it also makes sense to me with regards to, well, we're going to get onto that, how that has impacted and also inspired your children as well as to how successful they are in doing what they're doing. Okay, so that is lovely. Oh, 31 years married. So I'm really glad that we're able to explore how you guys met and the best parts of each other and all that wonderful things. And I just would like us to move on to the story, you know, the backdrop, the history, and finding out about what your values are with regards to studying academia. Because as I was sharing earlier, is that you guys are inspirational. The whole family, all 5 members, are alumni of University of London. I mean, the world needs to know about this. A big round of applause, trumpets blowing, guns salute, and all of that. Okay. And I really wanted to unpack and really find out about the early beginnings, do you know what I mean, in Jamaica, and how that had an influence upon you guys in terms of studying.
I would want to ask Yvonne to respond first, because both of our mothers had the same vision, in that both of our mothers, without knowing each other, lived in 2 separate parts of Clarendon, moved us from our native school, primary school, to another school in order that we could achieve academic excellence.
That's correct. So my mom I was attending the local primary school in my area, and then at the age of 9, my mom moved me to another primary school in a different area, where the success rate of students in that primary school is very high to matriculate to high school. So at the age of 9, I was going to that primary school, where at age 10, she started preparing me to write the exam, which I would need to do 2 years later in order to get to high school. So she started me 2 years earlier doing that exam. So on Saturdays, I would be going to classes to take extra lessons in preparation for this exam that I would need to write 2 years later. So she really started me on that academic journey from an early age.
Yvonne was speaking, it was going through my head that, her mom knew she had the academic capabilities to pass that common entrance exam, it was called back in the day, that you take in order to get to high school. So my mom figured out that, hey, this boy's not going to pass that exam. So she moved me from the school in Thompsontown and moved me to the primary school in Frankfield. Similarly to how Yvonne's mom moved her from the primary school in Mitchelltown to the primary school in Lioneltown. So when I moved from Thompsontown to Frankfield Primary School, that primary school was a feeder school for what was then Frankfield High School, which is now Edwin Allen High School. So I matriculated from grade 6 in primary school into high school. So I would say those two moves were key strategic moves to ensure that these two young children could, get to high school. And back then, the key to any success in Jamaica was successfully completing either O-levels or CXCs from high school. And if you did not, then your academic, educational, career journey could be severely impacted.
My mother and my father really instilled in me the importance of education. And even when my mum traveled from Jamaica over to the UK, she was so wanting to get a job and to study. And that was always instilled in me. And my father, he loves reading, he loves studying and learning new information. So I suppose that DNA from your parents is just in your blood, isn't it? It's just in
That's
your
right. Blood. Yes, yes, yes.
Shake it off type of thing. So I want us to really explore, the early beginnings, moving from Jamaica to Canada and raising a young family. How was it? And share some stories about how you got on and what was your experience living in Canada and raising a family.
So when we got married, we waited 4 years before having a first child. And these were the early formative years where we, for whatever reason, I don't know where this idea came from, but there's a philosophy that I now live by, and I've been doing that maybe for 25 years, is just enjoy each stage of life. There's one stage here where she's my girlfriend, we get married, we have no children, enjoy that stage. And she wasn't prepared to have any children in the first 2 or 3 years. And I said, I didn't marry her for children. So enjoy that stage. And we did. That was, we sat at dinner and that's what we discussed.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
I didn't marry her for children because you know what it is. It's like people get married. They have a really false sense of, not identity, a false sense of idea about what marriage is. So they love the fantasy of marriage, but the realistic idea of marriage is totally different from the fantasy. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Marry her for children. That is just so lovely to hear.
Well, thank you. So during those first few years, every weekend we'd be out at the park somewhere. We did a lot of park picnics, a lot. Those first 3 years, every weekend, in the summer that is, we're at a park enjoying a picnic or something to that effect, or just sightseeing and driving to Niagara Falls and just seeing the falls because there were no babies around.
That's right.
And then when the time was right, Yvonne was ready. That's when you said, yes, I'll have a baby next year.
That's right.
And those were the early interesting years. And there is something interesting before I have Yvonne speak, is when the first child was 1 or 2 years old, Yvonne said, hey, I would just like to have another baby and have them quickly, just one more. And we were having dinner and I did this on the table, assuming this is the table. I'm not having 2 babies in the house because I don't think we could handle 2 babies. Crazy. Well, long story short, we waited 3 years and then Yvonne was pregnant again. And at the first ultrasound, our son, we took him, he was about 3. We were all in the room together looking at the ultrasound. And then I said, oh, wait, babies move fast. because I clearly could see the head of a baby, and the technician showed me. And then afterwards, I saw the head of that same baby upside down. It was at the top, now it's at the bottom. And I said, oh, they move fast. And woo, woo. And
the technician said, no, you're having 2 babies. And I'm like, wow, 2 babies. And my son at the same time said, no, I want 3. Yes, so that was a joke inside the office that day.
yeah, so the thing is, she has a husband who said, no 2 babies in the house. So now I don't say anything like that anymore. Like I will never ever say, for instance, I'll never be on a podcast because this is my first podcast. So I won't say that again. Anything I say like this, it will happen.
That's so funny because, you know, whatever you say, it will happen anyway. So you might as well go with what Yvonne wants at the end.
Right.
The first one is Clive-Anthony. The second, well, and then the firstborn of the twins is Samantha. And then the second-born of the twins, which is the third child, is Antoinette.
Antoinette, beautiful, such lovely names. And I must say that through your, I can say your conscientiousness of studying and academia is also passed on to your children, isn't it? So what was it like in the early days of them going to school and, you know, you both working? Because I remember you were sharing with me about the library. Let's hear about the library, because I know it was a central focal point to this particular story.
Well, Yvonne taught the children to read first before they ever went to school. They learned to read. They woke up, their first, how do I put it? The first things they saw when they came home from the hospital were the English alphabet around their room. So that's what they saw. They didn't see cartoon characters. So for whatever reason, I don't know, we didn't really plan it, but we just went and we bought wallpaper with the alphabet, and we just strung it around the room. And the numbers.
Yes.
And the numbers. Yeah.
That's right. Yes.
So for whatever reason, and then even before that, Yvonne used to read to the babies while they were in the womb.
Right. Yes.
I couldn't get it.
Yes.
I didn't get it. Still don't get it. But she would read books to them.
Yes.
And then when they were born, they saw the alphabet, so they would ask, "What's that?" And we tell them. And then now, when all 3 were born, we moved from a condo that we were living in, and we bought a 3-bedroom house. So the girls share a room, Clive-Anthony, our son, shared a room, and then Yvonne had a room, but she shared it with me.
Make me laugh, but she shared it with me.
The children have had their own rooms. I always have to share a room.
That's how it's supposed to be, you know?
So when we lived in that 3-bedroom house for how long?
4 years.
For 4 years. But it was strange that house, wonderful, but it never felt like home. So we never hung pictures in. I just said, this is not home, we're going to live somewhere else. And then within 2 years of living there, we had an epiphany. We figured out, hey, now we know why we're moving soon. And it was that we realized that we need a 4-bedroom house, because at least 4 bedrooms, because we decided we want a library in the house. Young family, young children, we know we couldn't afford a proper house with a proper library that is designated and built as a library. So we said, we want a 4-bedroom house, which we'll continue to live and share bedrooms the way we do, but that 4th bedroom will be a library.
That's right.
So we still have a good friend in real estate. So he started looking for us. About 9 months before we moved, he started looking for us and sending us information. Wonderful man, PJ. And we eventually moved into the house. And before we moved there, we packed all the books. Oh, by the way, talking about books, all the books in boxes and labeled them 4th bedroom library, 4th bedroom. And we might have had about 6 boxes.
That's right, yes.
There was a man who was helping me move, and he said, why do you have so many boxes marked books, fourth bedroom library. I've never seen this before. But for whatever reason, I wasn't keen on telling him why. I don't know why. So I quipped, oh, because they are bedroom books, which created another impression, but everybody around laughed. But those were all the books that Yvonne had been collecting for the children.
Yes. I believe the girls were like 2.5 years old when I took them to the local library, and they were able to get their own library card, sign their own name on their library card, because I teach them how to write also, everything. I teach them at home before they started school. So they have their own library card, the girls about 2.5 to 3 years old. So was my son. So in the evenings, we would walk over to the library, they get their books, and that's how it started.
It's so good because I believe that having a love for words and literature really just helped to expand the vocabulary, isn't it? And how one would communicate. And also, I remember when we were talking and you mentioned about the homeless man. Yeah, I like you. Yeah, because that really stuck out in my mind, because it also, I believe, influences your children to say that they want to do well, they want to succeed. Do you know what I mean? So that ambition and drive could have been fueled by that particular situation. So share it with us.
Yes, yes. I hope people can understand this from a politically correctness perspective. But there is another story about one of the girls who still is sick with a very rare disease called severe aplastic anemia. And the girls might have been 3, and our son would have been about 8 years old, 7, 8 years old. Right, yes. And we all had gone to the hospital for one of the numerous visits. And we were coming back, I think it was during the summer, they were on holidays. And we were just going under a bridge. And while we were driving, there was a man sleeping on the floor, on the ground. And our son said, "Hey, Daddy, why is that man sleeping on the floor? On the ground, just by the street, by the sidewalk. Why is he on the ground?" I do not know. And I don't know why it caused me in the moment to do what I call the big lie. And I just told him a lie. I made up a lie. I said, he didn't do his homework. To which Clive-Anthony responded, "Oh, so if you don't do your homework, you are going to sleep under a bridge?" And I compounded the lie by saying, yes. Now, maybe 6 months to 9 months passed. And this was when the girls now were in junior kindergarten. Okay. And I just happened to be passing the girls' room one day, and I heard Clive-Anthony in whispering tones saying to them, "Girls, you better do your homework, otherwise you're going to sleep under a bridge." So I went downstairs as I was, and I said, he still remembers a lie? Maybe he didn't know it's a lie, because I don't know. I don't know what happened. And then Yvonne had a similar experience with the girls around the same story. Right.
So about the girls were maybe 6, 7 years old this time. They're in grade 1. So they now do have homework to do in the evening. So I was downstairs in the kitchen, and one of my daughter came down crying, said, "Mommy, Antoinette don't want to do her homework, and I don't want her to sleep under a bridge." She was literally in tears. I turned off the stove, went upstairs to find out what's happening. Saw Antoinette walking around in the library like nothing, like no care. And I said, "Antoinette, look at your sister, she's in tears. She just let me know that you don't want to do your homework, and she doesn't want you to live under a bridge." And I said, "Antoinette, time to do your homework. Make sure your homework gets done." And she said, "Okay, Mommy." And that was it for guiding them into homework. Never had to have a homework conversation with them for the rest of their school life. That was it.
School life, college life, the whole 9 yards.
Exactly, yes.
That's imprinted on their brain, do you know what I mean? if I don't do my studying equals homelessness. But there is something about that though, isn't it? In terms of the drive to want to do well, the drive of pride, the drive of ambition to ensure that I get a career so that I'm able to sustain myself. Because without that, that could easily lead to poverty. But we know that there are some situations where people have a degree, could have a master's, a PhD, and could easily land up in that situation.
That is correct.
That drive, I think we have to look at it as a positive. Having that drive to want to do well is definitely a good thing. So what age were the children when you guys decided to pursue an international degree at the University of London? What age were they?
Oh goodness, they would have been in middle school.
Okay, yes. So Clive-Anthony would have been around 13, 14, and the girls would be about 8 years old.
Wow. So around that time.
Yes.
It's around the homelessness situation, the man the bridge. So what really motivated you both to pursue an international degree at the University of London?
I think it started with me. When I met Yvonne, she was in her last year of doing her diploma in business administration and specialized certificate in human resources. I still had my A-levels and interested in pursuing that computer science degree that I wanted to start in 1984, and I must have been in my late 40s then. So in 2008, I was working full-time dad, full-time husband, and I said, I have to go back to school. I need to get the undergrad degree I wanted since 84. And I said, well, it's not possible for me to go to full-time classes during the day because I must work. So I started looking at what distance learning options there are. And I looked throughout the United States, Canada, the UK, and there were some options. And I came across the University of London, which I knew about. Being Jamaican, I knew of the institution. And I was interested to find out that they do offer various undergrad degrees via distance learning. So that was the reason distance learning was important, because I needed to continue to work, needed to continue to support and take care of the family. And by the way, during that time, because of a related story or related circumstances in our life, Yvonne had voluntarily stopped working. So it meant that I had to continue to work. Yvonne voluntarily stopped working to take care of the children and one of our daughters who got sick, and the whole saga of that experience. So I had to continue to work, but I wanted to better myself. And I think I still had, at that age, the intellectual capacity and capability to study. So I chose the University of London after doing much research and speaking with people and emailing the university back and forth and doing lots of research into who has attended any of the colleges, whether they be LSE or whether they be University College London. And then there were some luminaries whose name came out, you know, the likes of Nelson Mandela, the likes of Michael Manley, former Prime Minister of Jamaica, and Nelson Mandela, everyone knows who he is. So I felt comfortable that this was an institution that I could engage with. Plus, because I had O-levels and A-levels, I think I would fit into the British way of education, since it is so rigid and difficult. Sometimes too difficult. Yes.
Would you say it's rigid and difficult? Wow. What, in comparison to what would you say?
I would say it is different in comparison to the degree I started at New York University.
Right.
The University of London, now having experienced it, is far more rigid than it would be at York University in Toronto. They explicitly want you to define a function and explicitly clarify with lots of continuous mathematical equation that this is related to this and the predicate logic must follow, rather than missing one line of the logic in the reasoning. I find that universities in the UK, because I've had exposure to Cambridge, and now I have exposure to Royal Holloway, she has exposure to London School of Economics. It's very different, I think, from what I have experienced in Canada. And also I did a certificate course from MIT in the US, and London stands on it. The UK, I think, stands on its own.
Yeah, I mean, it is very prestigious, isn't it? Like many people want to study at our wonderful London or UK universities, and something that we all must be very proud about. But as I said, and I'm going to keep on repeating like a broken record, I'm so proud that you both and your family are all alumni. That is such a huge feat. This family affair, I think it's just a beautiful, wonderful thing. We are going to talk about yourself, Yvonne, about your journey into studying as well later on, because we're going to talk about the family affair and the business enterprise as well, which I think comes together. Yeah. But I want to further think about, and for you guys to look back and to share with us, what significant lessons did you learn?
For me, it's one word: it's support.
Right.
But it's not only support from each other and to each other, is the children as well.
Yes.
Our son supported every single winter of my studying journey, where he was adamant that I do not go out in the winters and clean the snow. He did. He did, and I studied for a total of 6 years, 6 consecutive years. Did my undergrad and then did an MBA immediately. And that kind of support is priceless.
Yes. And the same thing as Cleveland said, but just to expand on that, as you said, Clive-Anthony would help with snow cleaning. The girls also help with preparing meals. As by the time they were like 10 years old, they were able to do things in the kitchen. They could help out in the kitchen. They could, they even bake too sometimes, right? So the family support was there 100%. Everybody chipped in and do what they can to make our studying, a little bit easier. Yeah, the support was there.
You know what I'm thinking about when you said support from your family, from your immediate family, from your children? Do you think the values and the morals that you had in Jamaica from your family also infiltrated how you guys are parents in terms of what your children see? What are your thoughts about that?
Absolutely, I think so. Because by the time we started studying, they were living a particular support that they experienced. So for instance, if they were in kindergarten and they had a kindergarten race day, they would see me take a holiday that day so I can come and see the race day. And so we drop everything to support whatever a particular member of the family is doing. So I suppose they grew up seeing that and figure that, oh, our parents are going back to school.
Yes.
I suppose we should do whatever we can. I never thought about that, but now you're causing me to think back. Why did it happen? Why did our son say, no, I'll do all of the snow cleaning? Why did the girls bake us numerous cakes and baked us chicken wings so many times? Maybe I never thought about it, but you're pulling out the inner, deeper thoughts.
That is true. That is
from
true.
us.
That is true. That is true, because once Cleveland is not traveling, because his work at the time caused him to travel a lot. So once he's not traveling and the children have any extracurricular activities after school, he's there. If he have a meeting, or if he's the one running that meeting, he ended it early so that he could come and catch the rest of the game. He's there. Once he's not traveling in the country, he's there at the games. So the children sees that.
pulling
Yes.
out those values, do you know what I mean? Pulling out those things, those characteristics that are being mirrored by your children, you know, which I think is just such a beautiful thing. So you both were studying at the same time, isn't it?
There was a time, that is true, when I was doing my master's, we were studying together.
Right.
Yeah.
During my undergrad, we were not
Right.
studying together. During my undergrad, Yvonne was going to the hospital with Samantha, one of her twin daughters, who was sick on a very regular basis. It could be every week or every 2 days or something like that. But by the time I was doing my master's, Yvonne was going to the hospital maybe every 6 months.
Every 6 months, yes.
About then. So she had some time now where she could study. So it was during that period where we were both studying for 3 years. We were both
studying for 3 years together. So you was doing your MA, you was doing your degree in sociology.
Correct.
That's right.
That would be 2012 to 2015.
That's right.
Awesome, awesome. So once during that time, I was reading about Yvonne. Well, not just Yvonne, but as the family, we're going now into the family business with regards to learn is empowering and comfy care. Could you please share the story behind to learn is empowering, and then I would love to move on to comfy care as well.
Okay, so to learn is empowering. As when I resigned and was taking care of the children, once Samantha's visit wasn't so frequent at the hospital, those days I would volunteer at the school. Each school that they were attending, I was there volunteering. So the part of volunteering I was involved with is to help the children who have reading problems. So I would take that child out of the classroom, go into a separate room and help that child with reading. Week after week, year after year, I was doing that. And it was very rewarding. And I find that I was able to get the children more involved in wanting to learn how to read. The teachers reported back to me and said, I'm doing a good job, because yesterday the same child was with another parent and they had to call the vice principal because the child just wasn't, listening to the parents. So she's asking me, what is it that I am doing? But then I believe I learned how to engage with the child. I try to find out what the child is involved, what the child is interested in. From that, I work with the child. I would start the class off with, draw what you want to do. Start off with that, get him comfortable. Once he's comfortable with that, I said, okay, in order to do this, you need to know how to read, because you're going to need to be able to sign a contract, know what's on the contract. And that's how the lesson starts each time, just to remind him why he needs to learn how to read. So that's how I would engage with the children, meet them where they're at, and get them to be interested in learning how to read.
You know what? It's such a wonderful thing to hear, because when I'm thinking about the business name, to learn is empowering, I believe that has been, could be your family motto from inception. You know what I mean? To learn is empowering, type of thing, But yeah, so.
Right. So from there on, after getting my degree, and the children are now out of high school and going to university, I decided to go back to work. Started working for a tutoring company, and with that, they've been getting a lot of good feedbacks about me. And so when the owner decided to close the company, she encouraged me to start my own, because I was doing such a good job. Existing students I'm working with, the parents didn't want me to leave because they've seen the growth and progress of their children. So I just continued on smoothly into my own business with some of those same children.
So
and
that
there was the birth of To Learn is Empowering.
So what about this wonderful, and I have the product here, Comfy Care, yeah? I opened it. I love the packaging, by the way. I love the packaging because it's
Thank
easy
you.
to go in your handbag. You know, you can carry
Okay.
it with you and stuff. And I love the color. I love green. I do.
Oh,
Yeah, I do like the color green. So when I see the color green, I think earthy, I think natural. It's gonna
right,
be
right,
some
right,
good. And the smell is not overpowering. Do you know what I
right,
mean? Because
right, right.
sometimes when you use Vicks, over here we've got Vicks Vapor Rub, it can really overpower the menthol, but this isn't. And what it reminds me, the consistency reminds me of shea butter.
Mm.
It's
That's
like
one of
that.
the main
But I know
ingredients.
that once you put it on the skin, it disappears. But you know,
Right,
talk
right,
to us
right.
this amazing product of ComfiCare.
Okay.
How did it all start?
Oh, how
Okay,
complicated
okay,
started?
yes.
Well, one of our daughters, Samantha, has this rare disease called severe acute aplastic anemia. And she was on a cocktail of many, many drugs. So this disease presents itself like it's leukemia. It looks like leukemia. Everything is identical from a blood works perspective, like leukemia, except that her red blood cells counts are high. Whether platelets, neutrophils, all of those other things, they're all bad. And so she was on a cocktail of drugs at one point, up to 5 drugs all at once. But she also presented knee and muscle pain.
Right.
And for years, she was going through that. And the attending clinicians thought that this is not related to severe acute aplastic anemia. And because she was on so much of a cocktail of drugs, Yvonne said, I don't want to give her any muscle relaxant and additional pain medication on top of what she's getting from the oncologist. So Yvonne researched earthy, you're touching on the subjects, something naturally from the earth as is in its natural state, organic, natural ingredients. Now, I didn't know what was going on. I just know when I walked by the laundry room, I would smell nice things, earthy things. And I think that continued for a year. I had no clue what was going on. But Yvonne can tell you what was going on.
Okay, so after doing research to find out about essential oils that are good for easing muscle pain, there were so many of them, so I tried to incorporate as much as I can and use the base of shea butter to mix these essential oils, because through reading I realized that you don't just use essential oils as it is, you need a base. So I use shea butter and sweet almond oil as the base to mix those essential oils in it. So I would be doing my little work in the laundry room, and for maybe about 2 or 3 years, Samantha was the one using it because she was the one I made it for, until Cleveland developed arthritis in his knee. And I said, why don't you try, the thing I'm using for Samantha? And he did, and he started to feel relief.
No, immediately. Within 15 minutes, my knee was not hurting.
Yes.
So I said, this is magic. This is magic. And then I was disappointed. For 2 years, she and Samantha had this little secret.
Yeah, not
they make these things. They make these things and it's relieving their pain. I never asked about it, but I was so shocked.
Right, right.
When I got the pain relief so quick. And then that's when I said, no, you've got to share this with the world. It's too good not to share.
Ben's idea to actually market this product, because we were using it for more than 2 years, I would say, because all throughout high school we used it. But she was very active, very, very active. Basketball, volleyball, they swim, she do cross country, she do soccer, marathons and all of that. She was very active, as no one would know that she had a past illness. Well, she still have it, but no one would know. She would go to the hospital in the one day to do a biopsy. Next day, she's running cross country. That's how she is. She loves being active. And then I hate to see her in so much pain. Can't do anything about it. So that's hence Complicated was born, just to help her out with her pain.
Excellent. So where does the name Comfy come from?
Again, a family affair.
Yeah,
We
it was
all get together again. By that time, our son wasn't here, so we had him on Zoom. All of us again talked about a name. Yeah.
Yeah, and being the crazy brain I have, I said, we perhaps should use something differentiated, like not a regular normal English word. And I thought about Latin, and I think I looked for the equivalent of Latin to comfort, because what I was getting was comfort. So, and then I said, hey, why not use the German word comfort that spells with a K? And then I said, but it's caring. So it's a mishmash of amalgamating the German word that spells with a K for comfort with our English word comfort, but we started with a common K, not an uppercase, a lowercase K, and the KOM, and then the C is uppercase, CARE, to say, hey, this is comfort, and we're caring for you. And as you can see on the ingredients on the jar, it's the essential oils are organic with things such as camphor and other pain and muscle relieving items. Yes. So by the way, I'm using it today. I have it on my knees. I use it daily on my knees for perhaps it could be the last 5-6 years now. So I've been using it before the company was formed. And that's what I use to alleviate my mild arthritis pain. And then, we were at the gym 3-4 days ago, and we were doing some exercises that I've never done, and certain muscles hurt. So I applied, and that's how we use it in the house.
Right. Yeah.
So when did you both graduate from the University of London?
We both graduated in 2016.
That is correct, yes.
We both graduated in 2016. And I alone would have graduated 3 years later, so 2013. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, 3 years.
So
okay.
I graduated alone in 2013.
That's
and then
right,
together, we graduated in 2016. There are some pictures of us at the 2016 graduation, all 5 of us. I should send it to you if I have not ever sent it to you before.
Yeah, I have seen them, and I think it's such a beautiful sight to see that all of you as a family in your gowns, well, you both in your gowns graduating in the same year. Yeah. So what lessons, as we're coming to wrap up, what lessons would you share with our watchers and listeners, or even things that you'd like our watchers and listeners to remember about your journey?
For me, like I said earlier, it's to live each stage and enjoy and engage fully in each stage of our lives. Right. That's what we did. It worked for us. Right. We just fully embraced it.
I would say the same, and to add to that too, to support each other.
I would say in March 2024, when we were planning to attend the children's graduation, we didn't have this perspective.
No.
When we arrived in the UK, and then we went out to Surrey to Egham to see, I wanted to just check in and say hi to Professor Harindranath at Royal Holloway. And he suggested that I reach out to the University of London's marketing department, student affairs department. And he said, hey, you should let them know that all 5 members of your family have 7 degrees from the University of London, 5 undergrads and 2 masters. I just didn't see the big thing about it because it's just how our lives evolved.
That's right, yes.
And then we met a lovely lady, Sophia, for dinner.
Oh, who's that? I wonder who that is.
We met you at dinner and you suggested the same thing.
Right.
And then you said, perhaps we are worthy enough to be on your podcast.
Right.
We didn't get it.
We didn't get it.
And then there's Lisa Pear, a very good friend of ours who we met back in 2012.
That's right.
She was then at the University of London as the head of student alumni affairs.
Right, yeah.
And then she also pinged me on LinkedIn and said, hey, this is phenomenal. This should be shared. And that's when we started getting the idea that, oh, there's something that we probably did that was unusual.
That's right, yes.
Say thank you again for spending your time, your space, and your energy in sharing your life lessons and journey from studying long distance, going through the twists and turns of life, and graduating and alumni of University of London. What a great feat. You have shown the importance of that you have resilience, that you have determination, and you have fortitude.